Now, if you're covering any America's Cup, there's one meeting every day that you have to be at. It's the morning meeting from regatta director Iain Murray. And I've nabbed him today just after the meeting because today's a big day, isn't it? I mean, every day in the America's Cup is special, but when it's a day in which the Cup can be won, that's a big day.
Yeah, it is. You know, I think there's a lot of emotion around a day like today. You know, there's obviously on Luna Rossa, you know, it is must win for every race, and for New Zealand, you know, it's match point. So I think, you know, with that brings, you know, a lot. It's not only within the teams, it's within the expectation and the following from the public, and for us in race management to, you know, deliver the best course that we ever have, and we can do.
I mean, there's clearly a lot of pressure from your point of view, as you've just alluded to that. Do you feel it as a different day, or do you have to, I mean, I would imagine you have to treat it a bit like the teams. You have to treat it as, this is what we do each day and this is what we're going to carry on doing.
Yeah, for us is, you know, look, there's been a lot of talk. We've been here for 4 months. I think we've got a very good understanding of what happens with the weather and the different scenarios and the different courses. And so the playbook and the guidelines and conditions set for us are quite tightly controlled as to minimum wind strengths, time limits, and wind shifts, and that outlines what is a proper course for these boats. And so our job is to make sure we adhere to that, and certainly, you know, it would be nice for the deciding race in the America's Cup to be the remembered race like it was in 1983 or it was in 2013, and I think, for, you know, the pressure's on us to deliver that memorable race.
What are you expecting from today, weather-wise, that is?
I'm expecting, you know, light northeasters, probably above the wind strength, but, you know, once again, tricky days. Not the windier days that I think are commonly sort of expected down here. You know, that has avoided us. And so we're in that area where a little bit more wind makes these boats go a lot faster, you know, up until 12 knots of wind. You know, the 6.5 to 12 knots of wind is just exponential speed growth for these boats in their performance. So, you know, wind is the trick.
And you've seen a lot of cups. You were cup skipper yourself. I mean, there's been just a phenomenal increase in performance. So what will you take away from this particular cup cycle?
Look, you know, as always with the cup cycle, there's always a huge technology step, you know, whether it was tri-radial spinnakers or Kevlar sailcloth or, you know, composite boats, carbon fibre, everything. You know, over the period I've been involved, there's been a huge technology piece, and what that's done is increase the possibility of performance on the boats, and with that changes the dynamic of the crew and the speed of the crew and the tactics and strategies of the crew and the reaction and fitness of the crew. You know, the fact that these boats go 40 knots now, not 8 knots like a 12 metre, it's pretty simple. It just means everything's sped up 4 to 5 times.
It's exciting to watch. Well, and it's been good fun coming to these briefings. I'd actually like them to carry on quite a while longer, but there we go.
Oh well,
we might find
in the
out.
Coffee shop.
Yeah, exactly. All right, thanks very much, Iain.
You're welcome.
Cheers. So here we are again. Well, we thought yesterday was going to be the last day, and today could be the last day. And this is a sort of unique part of the Cup, isn't it, a bit? Because whatever happens today, it's a big story. Because if the Kiwis win today and lift the trophy above their heads, then clearly that's a story.
Sure.
But if the Italians live to fight another day, that's a story as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's do or die for the Italians today. And I think they've lucked out a little bit with the forecast and the course selection. It's exactly what they'd want, and it's exactly where they'd want to be.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Before we just get onto that, quick look back at yesterday's race, which was pretty interesting. I mean, that's got to rate as one of the most amazing.
Yeah, Corsi. That was right there what the modern America's Cup is, and that in a 25-minute window is where the journey from where we left monohulls in 2007 to land here in 2021 with stadium racing and foiling monohulls. That 25-minute window in an America's Cup match represents where the sport is at right now. And I think as an America's Cup community and as a sailing community, we should be proud of that. It's a brilliant sport. Now, I know there's the purists out there that like the 2-hour windward lewards out in the Hierarchy Gulf, and don't get me wrong, there were some brilliant racers out there as well. But what we are doing now is appealing to the wider sporting public, and that is a thing, trust me, with where sailing's at right now. So I'm all for it, man. I sat there yesterday as a neutral and I was jumping out my seat with every lead change, and I was like, come on mate, you're meant to be one of the sailors here, like play it cool. But I was so excited, it was wicked.
Yeah, it was amazing. So did Luna Rossa make a mistake, or was that on that defining part of the race, the top of leg 5, wasn't it, where they chose to go left? They could have carried on to the right.
Yeah.
They said they made a mistake. Do you think they made a mistake, or do you think in the heat of the moment they didn't have any choice but to bounce out to the left?
Yeah, I was really impressed with how Luna Rossa sailed the first 2/3 of that leg. The way they kept that quicker boat, let's not mince our words here, the way they kept that quicker boat behind them, I thought was very, very good. Particularly that move at the first leeward gate to step out beyond ley line and reach back in, and then the Kiwis went in and did the sort of round up tack, and they lost a bit more time. But then it wasn't the cross where, on the last upwind, it wasn't the cross where the Italians went back out to the left and the Kiwis got that shift out to the right and eventually went on to win the race. It was the comms coming off the boat from Keko Bruni, coming into the first intersection of that last downwind, and you could tell that he wasn't confident in trying to place the boat with a lee bow tack, I think it was. And at that moment, they were very, very much on the defensive, and not on the defensive in a classical match racing style of things. They were like, if we tack here, the Kiwis have got too much speed on us to defend. And there was a real shift on that third upwind in their thought process, I think. And like I said, let's call a spade here. The Team New Zealand boat is faster in that wind range, and I take my hat off to the Luna Rossa boys for shutting down that race course in the manner that they did. And if there wasn't that 15-degree righty at the top, who knows? But like you said, Matt, that is one for the ages.
It's incredible, isn't it? I mean, I know we're all we're still pretty buzzy about that race yesterday, because it was, as you describe it, it just makes me think about it again. And I don't think I would be overstating it to say that out of the two boats, and I have huge respect clearly for both teams and what have you, but the way Luna Rossa sailed their boat yesterday was just frigging beautiful. It was just amazing. They were so smooth.
Yeah.
So and I'd forgotten actually temporarily about that incident at the bottom, or that manoeuvre at the bottom mark where they took them past the ley line. Absolutely fantastic.
And man, they were like jibing, reach to reach jibing, and that is really hard. You do everything you can not ever to reach jibe. Even in all your pre-start stuff, you're doing a step down before you jibe and that kind of stuff. So to both boats to pull off that reach to reach jibe was really nice. And the other thing I thought a little bit, the Kiwis weren't that polished yesterday. The Kiwis weren't that polished in their manoeuvres.
I agree. I'd agree with that. I think, they, as you say, they had the faster boat. Interestingly, at Iain Murray's briefing this morning, his morning briefing, the first thing he kicked off with today, unusual for him, was he showed us just a little animation of that leg 5 right at the top when they split and they go off. And he says, look at the data. He says, look at the wind speed, look at the boat speeds.
What did it have?
It had more breeze, basically more breeze. The Kiwis had that puff on the right, and they were doing 3 knots faster than the Italians, who had less breeze and were going out on the left. Yeah. And the point he was making was that, sure, later on there was a shift to the right that then benefited the Kiwis. Yeah. But that wasn't the defining moment. The defining moment was there was more breeze on the right. Yeah, right. And of course, in the press conference last night, Gecko said, we missed the Kiwi puff, he called it. We didn't see the Kiwi puff over on the right. He said we missed it.
Well, it would be easy to miss it, because where it touched down from, I was talking to our INEOS group on a spectator boat, and as that final split came, we were on the right hand side, and it was what you'd describe in the game coming off the north head as like a helicopter puff, and it came down and it hit our boat and it then rolled off the transom of our boat. And I was like, if that meets them on boundary, it's over. And it was, Berlin must have a direct line to the big man upstairs, because that was a puff for the ages, wasn't it?
Certainly was. Right, let's look ahead to today. They're on a modified course A today, aren't they? Because it's been moved slightly to the south. Iain Murray says that he's brought it further south to make the most of the compression in the breeze down through the Rangitoto Channel.
Yeah.
But you like that course, or you like it from the Italian point
Well,
of
from
view?
the Italian point of view, you've got to go back and just look at the facts on that course. They beat American Magic comfortably on that course, particularly on day 2. I remember them sailing in 9 to 11 knots on course A with the Rangitoto Island in play, same as today. They beat us in the Prada Cup final on course A, 9 to 11 knots on course A, Rangitoto in play. Today, they've beaten Team New Zealand. I might be wrong. I think they've beaten them twice on course A out of their 3 wins in 9 to 11 knots. If you asked the Luna Rossa group, you've got a wind strength and a course to stay alive, what are you picking? Then 9 to 11 knots on course A, right?
So I don't need to ask you who you think is going to come out on top today.
Well, I think, do you know, we know on course A, all the conversation when you're on course A has been about winning the starts. Like, it's all about winning the starts and getting to Mark 1
They're pretty good at that, aren't they?
They're winning the starts. Like yesterday was even. The day before, even though that was the decisive day in the match, I thought Luna Rossa won the starts.
But even when they're even, they get the upper hand because they're in just the right place, aren't they? To be able to push them out the boundary, tack underneath them, and climb up onto.
Hey, I'm going to throw it out there then. I reckon Prada win the first race today. Second race, all bets are off. But I reckon Prada win the first race today. I do.
I think you're right. Well, there we go. Fantastic stuff. Well, we're both on a bit of a deadline. So, Who's going to say it?
Cheers a lot.
Cheers a lot.
Cheers a lot.
It's become a thing.
I
see it from the comments down on the bottom.
Cheers a lot.
Cheers a lot. It doesn't sound so bad, actually.
No, it's all right. I'm not sure if it's a keeper, but we'll keep running it.
See you later.
See you later.
So that's what we thought at the beginning of the day. Here's how it panned out in the end. Every day in the America's Cup is special. But when it's a day when the cup can be won, the game is raised to another level. Today was that day. After their win the day before in a dramatic, action-packed race, the defenders were just one victory away. The challengers needed both races to keep their dream alive. But if that pressure wasn't enough, the weather raised the stakes and dawdled its way onto the course. But when it arrived, it lit the race up.
This is the race committee. The wind sampling is complete and this race is live.
The Kiwis pulled off a perfect start, tacked off to the right and worked the side that they wanted. It paid off. At gate 1 they were 7 seconds ahead, gate 2 9, and then they lit the afterburners, stretching the lead leg by leg to finish 45 seconds ahead.
That was in a pretty nice phase, didn't it? All good with foot. Up for a hold here, fellas.
Their achievement was massive. They knew it, the crowds knew it, and Auckland went wild. 7 wins, 1 massive trophy, 4-time winners of sailing's most prestigious trophy. The America's Cup was New Zealand's once again.